Hello, thank you everyone for joining us on this HEC Paris webinar about our executive short program, Enhancing Your Intuitive Leadership Skills, hosted by Valérie Gauthier, Associate Professor at HEC Paris.
Hello, everyone.
I'm Claudia Machado, Program Advisor for this program. I'll be your point of contact for any question about the program or about the application process after the session. And it's a real pleasure to be with you throughout the session today. So this webinar will last around 30 minutes and will be presented in two parts. We will start with a presentation of the program with Professor Valérie Gauthier. And at the end, there will be a session of questions and answers. So if any questions come up during this first presentation, please do not hesitate to use the chat box that you can have at the bottom of the screen to ask all the questions. Before starting with the presentation of the program, I would like to give you just a bit of information about HEC. I promise that I'm going to be very short. So HEC Paris is a leader in research and education management, founded in 1881, and ever since the state, it has continuously striven to provide students with the necessary knowledge and skills to make their mark in the world. HEC Paris has consistently been ranked #1 business school in Europe by the Financial Times, and our executive programs are ranked 2nd in the world. These rankings reflect the quality and the impact of the teaching of HEC Paris. So now it's time for me to let Professor Valérie Gauthier talk about the program. Thank you.
Thank you, Claudia, and welcome everyone. It's my pleasure to be with you and to share with you some information about the program, Enhancing Your Intuitive Leadership Skills. It's about your leadership development, and you can move to the next slide. And the aim of the program is to help you find in yourself the resources that will help you become the leader that you are or that you can be. A great element of the program is focused on developing your self-confidence. So to grow both in your confidence in yourself and to build trust around you. The notion of relationship and relational competence is at the heart of the development of the method that I will present to you shortly. And it focuses on capacity for people to adapt and develop their empathy. When we know the life we're living right now and the situation we're in with the COVID-19, we know how important it is for everyone to improve your capacity to adapt, to engage others, and to be confident in yourself to keep on going. So the notion of resilience, which has now become something very much used in many different aspects, has actually been a milestone in the development of leadership through the savoir-relier approach, which I will explain in a minute. And facing adversity, which we are definitely in the middle of right now, is something that is cyclical and that has been part of the building of your leadership from the beginning for us. The other objective is to help learners and crafters of their own making and progress in their career to address complex issues and improve their decision-making processes so that when a decision has to be made, it is made knowledgeably and with the capacity of assuming the consequences of your decisions and not the decision alone. So to help you with this process and these objectives and to reach those objectives, the savoir-relier methodology, you can move to the next slide, Claudia, thank you, is based on research. For 30 years, I have worked in different fields, cognitive sciences, neurosciences, psychology, poetics, linguistics. So a very wide range of background, including learning, language learning, and so on. And for 35 years, being a professor at HEC, part of it being the dean of the HEC MBA for 8 years, I both tested and practiced and experienced with different leadership approaches and development. that's when, after I ended my job at the HEC MBA, I left HEC Paris for 2 years and went to the MIT Sloan School of Management and wrote my first book, Leading with Sense, which shows how important it is to associate leadership with the notion of sense and to grow your leadership with a sense of purpose. So the methodology itself has now been practiced for 10 years, and I'm currently writing my new book, which is a measurement of the impact of the method on individuals and organizations in their leadership development and the performance that is a consequence of the work. It's a practice that is emphasized and focused on relational competence because we have proved that relational competence precedes all other competencies and skills, because you can be a good expert or a technician or very effective at what you do. Only if you don't have effective relational competence, your expertise will not serve the right purpose. So leading with sense is exactly what we are about. And the methodology is there. You can move to the next slide, Claudia, thank you. To develop work on yourself. So working on your self-awareness, to grow your self-confidence. That is some of the measurement that we have proved that the method leads to. And as you learn to build trust as a team leader, you develop an impact on your surrounding and a positive influence on your surrounding so that you develop a stronger leadership. So this is a process, and I will describe the process in my next slide. It's a 4-step process. Claudia, yeah, thank you. Where you start by working on yourself with an exercise called the solo. With the solo, you take a step back and do a writing exercise to better reflect on who you are, where you're heading, and how you interact with your environment in 4 layers of relationships: you and yourself, you and another person, you and a group or a community, and you and society. In doing this first work, you focus on intuition and perception, but you also have an element of analysis by taking a step back and giving time to reflect on yourself, not just by checking boxes, answering questions that will give you a type like introvert or extrovert, but by addressing your own personality in its whole complexity and dynamic elements. So that the solo exercise is something that you will iterate. So you will do it once, and it will get a starting point for you to take that step back on yourself, but you will have opportunities to do it more than once. Now, the solo is a very important step, but it's definitely not enough. So we have a second step called the duo, where you use your initial self-reflection to interact with one other person, and you open up to that other person and use the power of dialogue to share trust, recognize the other person, and through the look of the other person on you, without judgment, without intention or expectation, you create an environment where it's safe for you to interact and exchange, and you learn as much on yourself as from the other and as about the other. So that's how you learn to grow, again, your self-confidence, but also to really understand what trust is about and how to build trust with one person. But of course, we couldn't stop there, because life is not just about peer-to-peer with one-on-one interactions. We live in communities, we live in groups, we work in teams, and we need to develop a group solidarity and social links. And this is the third step of the methodology, called socio, where we use resilience as a tool and a mode to grow your collective and connective intelligence, so that you grow stronger together by interacting as a group with the same mindset that is used for the solo and the duo, which means using a genuine, generous, and generative approach. I will explain in a few minutes about this posture and mindset that you have. So you move from the one-on-one interaction to a group interaction, small groups around 4 to 6 people, working on this development, using resilience to grow your resilience mechanisms and your capacity to act and put yourself into action, solve problems, make decisions together. So we have different tools that we use at this stage. And finally, we move to the last stage, which is Mundo, where you grow towards a sense of purpose and a sense of responsibility for your action. So there you have the engagement that leadership requires, where you can exercise your leadership and grow yourself and others with a common and shared sense of purpose. And that's how the objectives that you may have for your organization or your team guide you together for something that is much more sustainable, because you don't work for the short term. You need short-term results, but you also need long-term perspective. And it's the Mundo phase that helps you build that long-term perspective through work on your sense of purpose. So that's very, very briefly the 4 steps of the method that we use during the training. So the seminar is a 3-day seminar. And as we move forward, Claudia, if you can move to the next slide with the methodology, you will find that you develop certain skills, specific skills linked to relational leadership. Of course, we look at different approaches of leadership, including transactional, situational, and all the different models of leadership to move towards the relational one. So once you understand the foundations of the Savoir-Relier methodology, then you get yourself into motion and into action, and you adopt this posture that helps you grow stronger in your relationships with others and also in your relationship to yourself. So the 3 key characteristics that you develop in the program are genuine, generous, and generative. Those are the 3 G's. Genuine is your capacity to be, yes, authentic, but also transparent and to walk the talk as you speak and as you act. Generous is, of course, not a question of giving money, but a question of giving of yourself, of your engagement and passion and energy, so that you respect the other and you involve the other and you pay attention to the other, as well as developing your own goals. Sorry. And finally, generative is the 3rd G, which is associated with the first 2, to be clear that the question of performance and result is critical for you to be in that motion and to act as a leader. So in the end, when you use the Savoir-Relier methodology, you create bonds between your team members and with yourself that are lasting bonds of trust. And this is what brings collective resilience and possibility for action, not only in times of hardship like we are facing right now with the COVID, but also in times of production and creativity. So you're ready to produce and not only invent, but also manage the day-to-day, as well as create new perspectives that are meaningful. So the giving sense, your sense of mission, how you use performance as a tool for innovation, is not innovation for innovation's sake, but innovation for taking responsibility for what you do and bringing value to your surrounding and what you want to achieve. So in short, this is the approach. This is the timing. In 3 days, we cover the 4 milestones, the solo, duo, socio, and mundo. And through these 4 steps, you learn to grow as a leader, to grow as a human being, very simply, because a lot of the relational skills are based on going back to the notions that an interaction with someone involves a number of skills. And those skills are not just emotional skills and analytical skills, but they're also sensible skills. And you will see by associating what is called intuitive in the title of your program, involves actually your capacity to use your senses, also your sight, hearing, and all of the data gathering that you can approach through the senses, on top of the analytical skills and the emotional skills. So it's a special approach that has brought very impactful results, both for companies that are working together on developing their leadership teams and their employees in general, but also for individuals trying to improve themselves in their leadership capacity. So whether your aim is to develop yourself as a team leader, or to develop yourself as a human being, or to grow your organization from a more strategic point of view, all of those angles will be used in the program, and we will draw from your experience, from your needs, and from what you put on the table. I like to say garbage in, garbage out. So the more you will put on the table, the more you will get out of it. And the more you will learn from one another, and thanks to how much you give in the program. So it's a very intensive program. I used to have a leadership certificate at HEC that ran for 6 weeks full time, with about 40 participants every year from a wide range of backgrounds, ages, and countries. And for 6 weeks full time, we were practicing the savoir relier. And it was very, very intensive, very demanding. But that was back in 2013 to 2018. And I still have former participants of that program that get back to me at how much it has impacted them, their life, and their development. So if you're interested, I'll be happy to invite you to join the program. And we said we would leave about 10 minutes for questions. So maybe Claudia wants to say a few words about application and about the modality of the program, because we know that it's difficult right now to schedule with the pandemic, depending on where you are in the world. We have solutions that are digital, fully digital, or you can come face to face, but everything is possible. I have managed to run all of my programs for the past year online. So it's an option for you if moving and being face to face is an issue. And to reassure you with this, I have delivered 3 full-day courses online that worked really, really well on that topic, because motivation and involvement, when you want to improve, when you want to develop yourself, the more you give of yourself, the more you will learn. And we have found that in the past year, there is such a need for connection, reconnecting people around values, around sense. We have seen great impact on people thanks to the savoir relier methodology. So Claudia, you want to say a few words maybe?
Thank you. Yes, just a few, I'm going to be very, very short, a few words about how to apply. So the process is quite simple. We'll start with a short interview that can be made by email or by phone, just to understand your professional background and your training needs. And after this, short interview, we will send you an online application. It will be a link where you can fill out your application, and in order to confirm your registration to the program. So as Valérie Gauthier just said, today we scheduled this training for a session of 3 full days that will start on June the 2nd until this June 4th, and it's scheduled for a face-to-face program. But as Valérie just said, we can also propose the program in online if the current situation due to COVID doesn't change from now until June. So this is what looks like the application form. We will send you the link, and then you just have to click on Start Application, choose the program, fill out the form, and then you submit the application to confirm it. So I think that now it's time for us to move on to the question and answer. I'm sure that you have some questions for us. So I just leave my contact here, just like this. If you want to contact me after the session, please contact me by email or by phone as you wish. Now I see that we have already received a few questions. So thank you, Michelle. Michelle is asking, you would like to know more about the intuitive skills and the way you train them.
Okay. Intuition is based on experience, and it's based on action. It's not something that comes out of the blue, as you well know, Michelle. And the way I work on intuition is by using the senses to relate to your environment and better capture the elements of information that don't necessarily come from the rational mind, but come from the perception. And I always tell this story about being in an expedition, a ski expedition, when a senior guide was taking us. It was a long time ago. I was young then. And his intuition saved my life. and that of 4 other people doing the same expedition. And that's how I answer and how I look at intuition as a source of result, impact, and decision making. So we were going on this expedition, and after 2 hours of climbing, knowing, of course, that he had experience, he had the knowledge of the weather condition and the snow condition, and we were in perfect timing to do this expedition. Only after 2 hours, he shouted at us, move out, and we executed his order and moved out of the track where we were on, following him. And a few seconds later, we had a huge avalanche that fell next to us and that blew us, but did not take us away. So we had the blow and we were affected, but we didn't die. And we know how an avalanche can be so dangerous. And reflecting on this and using this example as how the rational mind would have probably killed us if our guide had reasoned about the situation that he felt, probably heard some grounding sound or felt something in his legs that were reasoning with not reasoning, but resonating with the fact that something was happening, some danger was happening almost instinctively. If he had used his brain and thought, well, weather conditions are good, snow conditions are good, nothing bad should happen to us, well, we would have died. And intuition is something that you can grow if you are more capable of using your senses effectively, using them as sources of weak signals that tell you, give you information about where you stand in your relationship with your environment. And that can be physical. In the situation that I just described, there was a physical element, but it can also be mental. For example, I'm currently studying the question of burnout in organizations. And I find that if you develop better vigilance, better attention to yourself and others through the signals that your body sends, that your behavior sends to one another, so you use more sense of observation, your listening skills, and you're more capable of paying attention to what's going on around you with more care, the probability that you will detect signs of a potential burnout are much higher, and it helps you prevent burnout from happening. That's one study that we're working on in our research right now, that by using the Savoir Relier methodology, you will grow your sense of observation, your sense of listening on a day-to-day basis. They will be more anchored in how you interact with your environment, and not something nice to have, but something that is part of your behavior. So in the job environment, in the workplace, for example, when you do a performance review, if you have the approach of the solo and the duo before you're going to do your performance review, the type of attention that you're going to have to the other is going to rely on not just the technical results of the person, the performance and the achievements, but also on the way the person perceives and senses the year that has been happening for him or her. So the interaction is much more qualitative, and it's not just a perception or an intuition, but it's an association of what you perceive and what you analyze. So it's the association of perception and analysis that will give light to effective intuition, that will bring results in how you interact and how you give feedback, and how you potentially, for yourself, for example, another impact is gaining more assertiveness as to what you do and what you say. And I remember when I was at the MBA, I was working with a lot of CEOs that came to speak to the MBA students. And Ben Verweyen was at the time the CEO of Alcatel-Lucent. And Ben was saying to the students, well, many of my decisions to recruit someone come from my intuition and not from my rational analysis. Well, in fact, it's not just intuition, it's an association between the two that help you make better decisions. And by being able to balance your intuition with your analysis, then you're much more able to be confident with your decisions and the consequences of your decisions. So I've had many other examples of leaders that are talking about what intuition is and how they use it. Well, I have systematized the use of intuition or intuitive skills that, again, associate sensible, sensitive, as well as emotional, as well as analytical, so that you take from all the different sources of and resources that you have at hand to apply them to a better leadership. So I don't know if I answered your question, Michelle, but again, it's very short and we have very little time, but it's actually maybe the next word I would like to say is it's only by practicing that you do improve yourself. So it's action, practice, and all of my research has been including in my PhD dissertation, as a matter of fact, associating research and practice constantly back and forth, so that you test what you research and you apply it and you see if it works, and you go back and you constantly go back and forth between theory and practice.
Okay, thank you. It seems that it was clear because Michelle says thanks. So thank you, Michelle. We have another question from Rafael Eichler. Do you find difficult to develop an emotional intelligence level to efficiently manage the team for those leaders with weaker natural abilities in that area?
Thank you, Rafael. This is a very thorough and to the point question. I will say two things at this stage about this point. First of all, the notion of emotional intelligence that came mostly with Daniel Goleman has actually been in a dichotomy between IQ and EQ, so rational and emotional. And what I have found in my approach is that emotional intelligence has confused a number of elements under the wing of emotions. And by doing research, we find that the sensible element is different from the emotional element when it was originally confused. And the sensible element is actually cognitive. So it is the initial source of contact with reality comes through the senses, not through the emotions, which are a consequence. They come after. So yes, it is difficult to develop those skills, but if you practice step by step by recognizing what is an emotion, what is a feeling, a sentiment, what is a sensation, a physiological sensation, what is a perception using your senses, and you know where you are, in what area you are when you interact, that you're much more likely to find the right behavior and the right approach to grow the elements that you need to develop. Now, the second part of your question addresses the fact that, yes, there are people that are more likely to be at ease with emotions or at ease with the sensible part, and others that are more rational. Most of my work in companies, I'm faced with people who are more on the rational side, people who are trained as engineers or who have an education in a very rational environment, tend to stay with the rational and avoid the other dimensions. Well, what I have found, because the sensible element is something that is very, very cognitive, you cannot be closer to reality than realizing that you touch something and it's cold, or it's very hot, or you burn yourself. Those reactions are very direct in your contact with reality. The rest is interpretation. And I use one tool to help you grow. It's called the Ladder of Inference. It was developed by Chris Argyris. And I use it and apply it in many different ways through the Savoir Relier methodology to help you come down your ladder and understand that the very second you're in contact with reality, you are selecting information, you are interpreting, you're making assumptions, and you're creating stories that actually are linked with your cognitive biases, but you're not necessarily aware of it. So the whole work of Savoir Relier makes you practice these elements of awareness, so that when you are in an interaction with someone or with your environment, you're more capable of detecting where you fall and where you stand. And that helps a lot in growing your self-awareness again, but also awareness of your environment, and you become much stronger. So if you're not so at ease in the beginning with emotions, and again, it's different from sensations, well, you come to be more effective simply because you can develop your sensitive skills, because you can develop your listening, your observing. And when you're capable of paying more attention to your surrounding, then naturally your emotional handling will be stronger. The other element where we use emotions and work very strongly on emotion is the third step when we work on resilience, and we use the group to develop your resilience through collective intelligence and connective intelligence, and their emotions are something that you work on very strongly at that stage, and then help you go to the fourth step where you build your sense of responsibility and so on. So it's a step-by-step process. It's very rigorous, very demanding. I will not hide you that in a 3-day program, you will give a lot of energy, but the benefits are long and last for long. So that's what I have found and what I'm writing about right now in my new book. Thank you for the question, Raphael.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, Valérie. I don't know if I'm just checking if there's other questions. For the moment, I think there's no other questions. And as we are running out of time, I suggest that we end up now with the session. And so thank you once again, Valérie. Thank you all for taking the time to be with us today. And please get in touch if you have other questions, and I will be delighted to exchange with you after this webinar. So
thank you for all. I mean, there were quite a number of you here, and I'm very pleased, and I'll be happy to meet you either face-to-face or online if you decide to join. I really love practicing and working with new persons, so I look forward to maybe welcoming you at HEC or at least interacting with you. What is the topic of my new book? Well, my new book is a measure of the impact of the Savoir-Aider methodology after 10 years of practice on individuals and organizations. And it shows how you can grow your self-confidence, confidence and trust, and how this applies to performance and brings better performance in organizations. So I'm using a lot of business cases and companies that I've practiced, as well as individuals using data from feedback, from experience. So thank you, Jean-Philippe, for being here.
Thank you all. And I hope to exchange with you soon. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Have a great day.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.